Okay, I thought I'd do a little walk around and a cold start video for this. It's a 2018 Sherco 250 SER. I have been through this bike basically nut and bolt. It was a good solid bike when I got it. It is, I would call it perfect mechanically now. At this point, I'll try to remember some of the stuff I did. There's going to be a lot more that I can't remember off the top of my head. But every chassis bearing and wheel bearing is new on this thing. Front wheel bearings, rear wheel bearings, it's new seals, new spacers. Obviously, I'm sure you probably know that those spacers get grooves worn in them after time. And when those start leaking, that's what really causes the bearing fails. So it has new linkage bearings. All those are new, and new swing arm bearings, factory links. And that was everything was packed with a lot of maximum waterproof grease. New steering head bearings. Steering head bearings are new. I relocated the map switch and the on switch to here. I was a machinist when I was younger. For about 30 years I was a machinist. So I made these mounts for relocation. I'm using a KTM starter switch. That is actually a YZ250 throttle. It's all new stuff. YZ250 cable, which mounts, just like the factory one, screws right in. They both use key hinge carbs with the same tops on them. This is a 36mm key hinge factory stock. I actually ran into a guy that was selling a 2022 brand new takeoff carb, so I just bought it. Carbs are easy to sell, so I'll sell my old one on eBay. I don't know, I go overboard when I build these bikes. New fuel tank. The old one was yellowed. Couldn't stand it. It's got a new air box because one of the hold downs for the battery, the plastic insert was stripped in there. So I bought a new air box. It's got a new lithium battery in it. It's got a new gnarly pipe. I did the top end with OEM Sherco top end kit, piston rings, piston pin, and top end bearing, and a Cometic gasket kit is what I actually used on there. Set the squish. I was shooting for 50. I got 55 thousandths on the squish. I actually have my squish measurement solders over here and my calculations and what gaskets I used. I could have got 50. I accidentally ripped one of the base gaskets, so I ended up putting these two together and came up with 55. My jetting, I've got notes on everything, receipts like crazy. I didn't do the plat. I did the fenders on it, but with Acerbies, however you say that. And that's it. The rest are original plastics. They were kind of expensive. I wanted to get the mechanicals perfect. And I ended up spending almost 2,000 parts, truthfully. Everything on here is new. Chain, sprockets. There's a new seal and O-ring in there. The countershaft seal and O-rings. The sleeve was good. Little things like this lock washer is new. These sliders are new. It's got a TM Designs chain guide. Everything to do with the chain is new. The lower slider is new. The upper roller is new with new bearings. Got these new nice polysport side frame protectors. Any of this wiring that I did, I just resoldered the original Sherco plugs. This is also a YZ250 kill switch. The other one was working fine, but it didn't look good enough. ODI grips, lock-on grips. These are the Rogue soft grips. Pro taper bar pad over those X-Trig clamps. The X-Trig clamps. I won't pull this off right now, but you can kind of see they have the polymer flexible. They keep vibration down and help with impacts. The bike was lowered to 1 3/4 inches when I got it. I pulled the lowering link out And that's when I did all those linkage bearings and swing arm bearing and everything. I did the upper shock bearing too while I was doing it, so every bearing in this chassis is new. I bought new fork springs, brand new fork springs. Those are the same white power forks that KTM's used for years. They're open chamber, they're excellent off-road forks. Probably better than the closed chamber on, on trail trash, rocks and roots and stuff like that, and they're really easy to work on. Changing fluids, seals, whatever. New seat. I'll pull that seat off after the cold start. It's got a new air filter, of course, twin air. God, there's so many new parts on here. I put an LED headlight in there. It's not a cheapo. I paid $28, I believe, for that light. It works great. It's bright. It uses less power. You know, if I found a bolt or a new fork guards, if I found a bolt or a nut that didn't look right, it got replaced. These, the used to have flag guards on them. When I switched those out, I got the new Brembo covers on there. Man, I just can't remember everything I've done to this. The reed valves were excellent. This crank was inspected, and it was perfect, right in their limits. It's got a new TM design skid plate. I did the coolant. I flushed the hydraulic clutch. I flushed all the brakes. The nut up here. When I got this bike, I replaced that nut. I think it just had some nicks in it. It was 25 bucks, if I remember right. I went through all the motor mounts, made sure everything was tight. Everything was cleaned, taken apart, cleaned. All the electrical connectors were unplugged, inspected, and had dielectric grease put on them. I repacked it's got an FMFQ Stealth with a few scratches on it, but functionally it's fine. They're only right here. That's repacked. New transmission, gear oil. All this work was done at 121 hours and now has 124. I'm planning on riding this tomorrow, so it's gonna have, it's already been ridden once and rewashed, and this is how it came out. So it'll look just as good, but this is a great bike. I'm riding it tomorrow. Boy, I just can't remember everything I've done, but I have receipts for everything, and like I said, it added up to about $2,000 worth of little parts, pieces, bearings, top end, pipe. It adds up fast. The forks, obviously, when I had them apart and put the springs in, they've got new fork oil in them. Everything on this bike is pretty much like new. I bought a Sherco bolt kit, which, a lot of the bolts on this were just in great shape, so I reused them where I could. And I've got new rubbers on the silencer mounts. Just a lot of little stuff like that. It's 25 here, 20 there, 40 here, 40, 50 there. And then the expensive stuff like the seat and the chain and sprockets. That's a DID chain. And the KTM chain guides fit on these. So this is an SX chain guide, and they want you to run a slightly narrower 520 type chain. So that's what this is. So it has good clearance in there, because a lot of the motocross guys don't run these X-ring or O-ring chains. I got a new top shock bushing bearing on that thing too. Everything, I'm telling you, I went through every nut and bolt. Let's give it a quick cold start. I'm not going to run it in the shop too much here tonight. You can look at so I had it up to 50 on the road near here. You can see 121 hours. And this thing usually starts instantly. I'm not even going to turn the gas on right now. I'm not going to run it long, so. can look under the seat quick. All that stuff is cleaned. I mean, I go overboard on these bikes. It seems like it pays off. They never break on me. And they come out right the first time, new seat there. I haven't put thermal paste under this so it transfers the heat faster to the aluminum subframe. It sounds overboard, huh? And there you go. It's got the lithium battery. I hooked this up for my lithium battery charger, so I can just plug it in if I need to. Thing has a killer alternator, 220 watts, the stator. So anyway, that's all I can think of right now. ODI lock-on grips. Yeah, this thing is mechanically perfect. You won't find anything on this bike. No problems anywhere. After the 3 hours of riding, I pulled the pipe, looked at this piston, inside the piston, and then dropped it down and looked at the bore in there just to make sure everything is going good. It looks beautiful. Looks just like new still. So, just no issues on this thing. Originally, when I replaced the airbox and everything, of course, I checked out the reeds. They were in excellent shape. No reason to replace them. The airbox and the intake tract was nice and clean. No grit had got into this engine, the crankshaft and everything. It wasn't rusty or anything crazy like that. It all looked good. It was just a good solid bike. And I just went through every inch of it and made it new. So that's what we have here.